Well, hey there, and welcome to the church video series. In the last lesson, I presented 5 precise video editing tips and tricks that you can use to make your next video even better than your last. And in this lesson, I'm going to suggest 5 new editing tips and tricks that are going to really focus on the philosophies and approaches that we take to our video edits. This is all about getting in the right mindset for our video edits, and so that while we're planning and performing our edits, we can be confident that the final product is going to be pure genius. And if not pure genius, really good at least. So in this lesson, I'm going to present to you 5 video editing tips and tricks to performing and planning your video edits that I think are going to be very helpful if you implement them. Number 1, work with the music. Especially for the types of videos that we're going to be making, and really for almost every video ever made of all time, the music is the pulse of the video. It's the make or break of the video. And that's why the soundtracks of movies are so crucial to their success, and that's why John Williams is such a boss. And so especially for the types of videos that you and I are going to be creating, I generally start with the music first. And so instead of using the audio track just as the bed that's underneath my video edit, it's actually dictating the pacing as well as the timing that I'm making for most of my cuts. So that means if I'm looking for a fast-paced video, I'm gonna get some fast-paced music. And if I'm looking for a frantic video, I'm gonna get some frantic music. And I found that over and over again, the types of music that I'm using in my videos are far more competent at explaining the message as well as particularly the emotion that I'm trying to convey in my videos rather than the cinematography and video editing choices that I'm making. Now, it's up to you whether to decide that's just because music is so powerful or because I'm so incompetent, but I'll leave that up to you. So get your music first, use it in establishing the emotion and pacing of your video, and don't just use it as a bed underneath the video. Use it as the guide that's driving the video. Number 2, do the little things. When Homer Simpson ends up quitting Globex Corporation, he says to his then boss, Hank Scorpio, that we're leaving because of the little things. And Hank Scorpio replies, you know what, Homer? The little things are what make up life. And he's very right about that, but he's also right about the little things making up your video. Whether it's additional sound effects, color correction, purposeful B-roll, good typography choices, getting the right exposure and white balance. These are the little things that while you might miss one and it might not make a difference, the more we miss them over and over again, they're gonna greatly dictate how great or how poor our final video is gonna look. And many of the lessons in this series cover the little things, and while they don't look very important on their own, when they all add up, they stack together, and that's going to be the difference between an amateur-looking video and a professional-looking video. So, really focus on the little things. Be precise, obsess, and be precise again. Number 3, be patient. One of the most profound lessons I've learned about video editing is not to try to do it all in one day. If you're editing video announcements or maybe your church's sermon, now obviously that's okay, but if you're editing something like your church's vision film or something that's going to be functioning on a grander scale, don't try to push it through in one day. Take your time. Do an edit and then come back the next day and begin working through it again, or maybe come back a week later and begin working on it again. Because the more you force yourself to get through everything in one day, the more you're going to become blind to some of the errors and poor storytelling that is happening within your video. And then when you come back a week later, or even more unfortunately, maybe you watch it on the screen at church a couple weeks later and you look at it and you say, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? I know I've done this myself on several occasions, and the best remedy when you're feeling like you're really gonna have to slug it out with video editing is to let it sit and come back another day. So remember, next time you're doing a video edit, plan for a couple days of editing so you don't get stuck on a bad timeline. Number 4, make an impression. This is going to touch slightly on the beginning, middle, and end lesson that we had earlier in this series, but I really want to reinforce this idea. Make an impression at the beginning of your video. Engage your audience and demand their attention. In one of my most recent videos that I made, at the very beginning, one of the very first things you hear before you even see anything is the audible voice of a police officer saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, the sex trade is alive and well in Edmonton." And that statement demands the attention of the viewer. So don't save your best stuff until later in the video. Use it in the first 5 to 10 seconds because a lot of your viewers might not even get to later in the video. So demand their attention, gain it, and then move on to the rest. And number 5, leave an impression. Finally, make sure that you're leaving an impression on your audience as your video finishes, whether that's a strong call to action or an emotion that you really want them to feel, or some information that's important and you want them to remember. Make sure that that impression is the last thing that they're gonna think of and remember as the video concludes. You know when you scrape your knee and it leaves an impression on your body? Well, that's kind of what we're aiming for with our videos. Those are the type of impressions that don't go away instantly. They might take a week or two to be forgotten, and that's the kind of impression we want to make with our videos. We want people to remember the point that we were trying to make. And while this won't happen with every video, let's be honest, we're always wanting to aim high. Well, that's all for the video editing portion of the church video series, and that's also the official end of the series as well. But there are 2 bonus lessons of the series that you haven't seen yet, so make sure that you go check those out as well. The first lesson is going to be a rehash of the best video cameras for your church, because the original list that I made was several months ago, and since then a couple changes need to be made, so I've updated that list, so make sure that you go check that out. And the final bonus lesson is a real fun one. It focuses on the biggest secret to making the best videos that you possibly can. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in those 2 bonus lessons.